Hello everyone, and welcome back to Talk Helen. I'm Helen, and I'm really happy you're here today. Before we begin, let me welcome today's guest. Joining me today is Chris. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Helen. It's great to be here. And today's topic sounds exciting because I think a lot of learners love vocabulary and sentences they can use immediately.
Exactly. And that's why today's episode is special, because we're not learning English that stays inside a notebook. We're learning English that people actually use. Real English. Daily English.
So these are the kinds of sentences people use at work, at school, in coffee shops, on the phone, and in everyday conversations?
Exactly. Today's topic is 50 daily English sentences you'll actually use. And honestly, most learners spend years memorizing sentences they'll never use. Things like, the weather is favourable for agricultural activities.
Nobody says that.
Exactly. But people do say things like, I'm running late, give me a minute, that makes sense. And that's what we're focusing on today. Real life, not textbook life. Let me ask you something, Chris. What's one sentence you hear almost every day?
Probably. How's it going?
Perfect. That's actually one of the most common English sentences in the world. And that's where we're going to start. Not with complicated grammar, not with advanced vocabulary, just real communication. Let's imagine you walk into work. Someone smiles and says, "How's it going?" That's sentence number 1. And a natural response might be, "Pretty good. How about you?" That's sentence number 2. Imagine you're busy. Someone asks, "Can you help me?" You might say, "Give me a minute." Extremely common. Native speakers use it constantly.
I hear that everywhere.
Exactly. Now imagine you're running behind schedule. You send a text. "I'm running late." Simple, useful, real. Now, let's imagine somebody explains something to you. You understand. What do you say? That makes sense. One of the most useful phrases in English. Now imagine somebody tells you an exciting story. You might say, "No way." Not because you literally don't believe them, but because you're surprised. Imagine you're deciding what to eat. You look at your friend and say, "What are you in the mood for?" Very natural, very common. Now imagine your friend asks where you want to eat. You say, "I'm fine with anything." That's something people say every day. Now imagine you're trying to remember something. Suddenly it comes to you. You say, "Oh, now I remember." And yes, people use it constantly. Let's imagine somebody gives you advice. You agree. You say, "That's a good point." Notice something? None of these sentences are difficult. That's because real English is often simple. Now let's keep going. Imagine you're meeting a friend. You arrive. You say, "Sorry, I'm late." One of the most useful sentences in daily life. Now, imagine somebody thanks you. You reply, "No problem." Much more common than "You're welcome" in many casual situations.
That's true. I hear, "No problem," all the time.
Exactly. Now imagine somebody tells you they got a new job. You respond, "That's awesome." Short, positive, natural. Let's imagine you're trying to leave. You say, "I should get going." Native speakers love this phrase. It sounds softer than "I'm leaving." Now imagine you're listening to someone tell a story. You want them to continue. You say, "And then what happened?" A great conversation sentence. Now imagine somebody asks for your opinion. You say, to be honest. Very common, very useful. Now, let's imagine you forgot something. You suddenly realize it. You say, I completely forgot. Now, imagine somebody asks if you understand. You reply, got it. Simple, efficient, natural. Now imagine you're talking about plans. You say, we'll see, meaning, let's wait and find out. Now imagine somebody asks, are you busy tomorrow? You answer, it depends. One of the most useful responses in English. Imagine you're looking for something. You can't find it. You say, have you seen my phone? Now imagine somebody explains something complicated. You finally understand. You say, now it makes sense. Imagine somebody tells you bad news. You respond, that's too bad. Now somebody tells you good news. You say, good for you, very common, very natural. Now imagine you're making plans. You say, sounds good to me. A phrase native speakers use constantly. Let's imagine you're trying to make a decision. You say, let me think about it. Excellent for daily conversations. Now imagine somebody asks if you want coffee. You reply, sure, why not? Very casual, very natural. Now imagine you're uncertain. You say, I'm not sure. One of the most useful sentences in English. Now imagine somebody surprises you. You say, seriously? Very common reaction. Now imagine you're talking about something difficult. You say, it's not easy, simple, powerful, natural. Most people use these kinds of sentences far more often than advanced vocabulary. Because daily communication isn't about sounding intelligent. It's about expressing yourself clearly. Now, let's continue. Imagine somebody asks if you're ready. You say, I'm ready. Simple but essential. Now, imagine you're waiting for someone. You text, where are you? Extremely common. Now, imagine somebody asks if you agree. You say, I think so. Natural uncertainty. Now imagine you're making a suggestion. You say, why don't we try that? Very useful. Now imagine somebody apologizes. You respond, don't worry about it. A sentence you'll hear constantly. Now imagine you need clarification. You ask, what do you mean? One of the most important conversation phrases. Now imagine you're impressed. You say, that's impressive. Simple, effective. Now imagine you need time. You say, just give me a second. Very common. Now, imagine somebody asks your opinion. You say, if you ask me. Excellent phrase. Now imagine you're excited. You say, I can't wait. And that's where we'll pause for now, because we still have 10 more daily English sentences to explore. And we're going to learn how native speakers actually combine these sentences inside real conversations.
Honestly, I already recognize most of these from real life.
Exactly. That's the point. These aren't textbook sentences. These are living sentences. And once these become automatic, your English starts sounding much more natural, much more fluent, and much more confident. And we're just getting started. All right, let's continue. We stopped at sentence number 40. I can't wait. Imagine somebody says, our vacation starts next week. You reply, I can't wait. Now, imagine somebody tells you something surprising. You respond, Are you serious? That's sentence number 41. You'll hear this everywhere. Now imagine somebody asks if you want to join them. You say, Count me in. Sentence 42, a fantastic phrase. Now imagine you're talking about a difficult situation. You say, It is what it is. Sentence 43, one of the most common expressions in spoken English.
I hear people say that constantly.
Because it's incredibly useful. Life isn't perfect, and people use that phrase whenever something isn't going according to plan. Now, imagine somebody asks if you've finished something. You answer, Not yet. Sentence 44. Now imagine somebody asks if you're free this weekend. You say, Let me check. Sentence 45. Now imagine somebody tells you a complicated story. You finally understand. You say, Now I get it. Notice the difference between I understand and now I get it. Now imagine you're talking to a friend. They tell you something disappointing. You say, That sucks. Very common in casual English. Now, imagine somebody asks whether you've eaten. You reply, Not really. Now imagine somebody tells you an idea. You like it. You say, I'm in. Simple, powerful, and very natural. And finally, sentence number 50. One of the most useful daily English sentences ever. Let's do it. You'll hear this constantly.
Honestly, all 50 of these sound familiar.
Exactly. That's the point. Because these aren't academic English sentences, they're living English sentences, the kind people use every day without thinking. Now here's something important. Learning 50 sentences is nice, but if you only memorize them, nothing changes. The real magic happens when you start using them. Let's imagine a real conversation. A friend texts you, Hey, are you free tomorrow? You reply, It depends. What's up? Then your friend says, I was thinking about going hiking. You reply, Sounds good to me. Then they say, Great. We'll leave early. You answer, I can't wait. Now you're having a real conversation.
I think that's what many learners are missing. They're studying English, but not using English.
Exactly. And fluent speakers spend more time using English than studying English. That's why these daily sentences matter. They're bridges between learning and communication. Now, let's imagine another situation. You're at work. Your co-worker says, Can you help me with this report? You answer, Give me a minute. A few minutes later, they explain something. You finally understand. You say, Got it. Then they suggest an idea. You respond, That makes sense. Look at that. 3 daily sentences. 1 normal conversation. That's how real English works. Small phrases, repeated daily, again and again and again, and eventually they become automatic. Many learners focus heavily on difficult vocabulary. They spend hours learning words they'll rarely use. Words like extraordinary, phenomenon, comprehensive. Those words are useful sometimes. But do you know what's even more useful? Being able to confidently say, Sounds good. Not yet. I'm in. Let's do it. Because those are the phrases people actually use every day.
That makes so much sense.
Think about it. A native speaker might go an entire day without saying, "Extraordinary." But they might say, "Sounds good," 5 times. "Not yet," 3 times. "Give me a minute," 10 times. That's why frequency matters. Learning common language gives faster results. Now let's talk about confidence. A lot of learners think confidence comes from knowing more vocabulary, but often confidence comes from mastering common vocabulary. Imagine 2 learners. The first learner knows 10,000 words, but struggles to use them. The second learner knows fewer words, but can naturally use these 50 daily sentences. Who sounds more fluent? Usually the second person. Because fluency isn't about how much you know, it's about how easily you can use what you know. That's a very important lesson. Now, let's imagine another conversation. Friend, did you finish the project? You, not yet. Friend, will you finish today? You, I think so. Friend, need any help? You, actually, yeah. Friend, all right, let's do it. Look how natural that sounds. No complicated grammar, no advanced vocabulary, just useful daily English. And honestly, that's how most conversations work. Simple language, natural flow, real communication. Now let me ask you something, Chris. Out of all 50 sentences, which ones do you think you'll start using immediately?
Definitely. That makes sense. I can't wait. Sounds good to me. And let's do it.
Excellent choices. Those are incredibly common. And that's another thing I want everyone listening to remember. You don't need to learn all 50 today. Start with 5. Use them repeatedly. Then add 5 more. Then 5 more. Because fluency grows through repetition, not memorization. The goal isn't collecting English. The goal is using English. And these 50 daily sentences give you a great place to start because they're practical, useful, natural, and most importantly, real. Now, before we finish today's episode, I want to leave everyone with a challenge. For the next week, choose 10 of these sentences. Just 10. Use them in conversations. Use them in messages. Use them in voice notes. Use them whenever possible. And pay attention to how often they appear in real life. You'll be amazed. Because once you start noticing them, you'll hear them everywhere. In movies, in TV shows, in YouTube videos, in conversations, at work, with friends, everywhere. And that's because real English isn't built from complicated language. It's built from simple language used naturally. That's the secret. Not bigger words, better usage. Not more vocabulary, more confidence. Not perfection, communication.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons people can learn.
I agree. And honestly, that's what Talk Helen is all about. Helping you speak real English, not textbook English, not exam English. Real English. The kind people actually use every day. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Helen. This was one of the most practical conversations we've had.
I think so too. And thank you to everyone listening. Remember, don't just learn English. Use English. Start with a few daily sentences. Use them consistently. And watch how quickly your confidence grows. I'll see you in the next episode of Talk Helen. Take care, everyone.